Hey everybody, welcome to etrailer.com. I'm Bobby, and today we're taking a look at the Yakima RidgeBack 4-bike rack hanging style carrier here today on our 2021 Volkswagen Tiguan. That's going to be a very nice way of just giving yourself a little decent hanging style rack to get your bikes to your destination. Now right out of the gate with the RidgeBack, of course, you are having that hanging style. Now with any hanging style, you're going to have sway. That's just something that happens with them. So we do have a couple ways of combating that here today. The first one, of course, is going to be this little anti-sway cradle on here. Now you're going to start seeing them on a lot of different hanging style racks out there. Now the real question is, how well are they working? Well, as you guys can see here today, this does a pretty decent job of bringing that bike right back into that position we want, not letting it go too much. As you guys can see here, I'm getting about maybe 2 inches of sway side to side here, so that anti-sway cradle does do a very good job. Now the other thing to kind of combat it is distancing your bike. So here today we don't have too much spacing, only about 5 1/4 inches between both of our bikes. If you're looking for something with a little bit more spacing to really reduce the contact that your bikes are going to have, highly recommend taking a look at the Yakima back road. That's going to give you pretty much the same little hanging style carrier here, a few little different features on it, but the big one is going to be that 7-inch subset for each of your bikes. So if you're really looking for a nice hanging style but keeping that contact to a minimum, that can be a nice little pickup for yourselves. Well, this guy is also going to have a lot of capabilities though for itself. It is going to have 150 pounds of overall capacity for transporting your bike, which equates to about 37.5 pounds per bike on here. Now if you do find yourself just having your single bike option, if you're not taking the friends and family out all the time, just carrying one, of course you can get about 40 pounds or so on there. I think the reason they don't want you to exceed that is a lot of pressure on just one part of this bar. So if I was you, I wouldn't, even though it's 150, I would probably keep your 60-pound bikes off on here, just so that way you don't end up damaging and ruining your rack, and then you can't carry all 4 of your bikes. So just as a little caveat for you guys. On the end here, you are seeing just little bottle openers. That's always going to be great to enjoy your favorite beverage wherever you might be. And we can take a look here at our cradle system. So these guys work really well. These are the zip strip technology. All they do, they simply slot right here by Yakima, and they just go right down on top of your frame, securing there and holding it to our cradles. The cradles themselves are made of a nice rubber material here. You have these little pads here, these air-filled pads. That becomes great. A little bit of a shock absorber, of course, and you do see that little groove right there in the middle. That's great for getting your brake lines or anything else that might be causing friction or damage to your paint or your bike inside that groove, and hopefully we can kind of combat it. Now that zip strip is also going to be utilized on that anti-sway. It becomes really easy just to go ahead, clamp down on your bike and get rolling. Now the one thing I will say though, if you find yourself consistently using it only in the front here, we highly recommend kind of swapping them around, or be better off, you can actually take these guys out when they're not in use, and that will extend just the lifetime of them, because of course you're not degrading one pair of them. You can go ahead and rotate them, and by taking them off just makes it easier to live in the weather. Don't have any kind of gunk building up on those guys, which is great. Well, it's not going to take us too much time to get this bike off. Now, one thing I do want to say, though, is exactly what we're working with. So you guys can see we do have 3 points of frame contact. What that's going to mean, this is not going to be great for your carbon frame bikes. And unfortunately, all hanging style are going to have that issue. And yeah, that's just something you have to look out for. Unfortunately, you're probably going to have to go to a platform style rack if you're looking for an option of getting your carbon frame bikes. And if you do have any women's bikes, step-through bikes, or kids' bikes, sometimes they have a little bit of a weird irregularity in their horizontal frame. So you may need to get a bike adapter bar, and that usually just clamps on between your seat post and your handlebars and gives you this nice horizontal contact. Now, luckily for us today, we have plenty of space here, but just if you do have one of those weird guys at home, you may need to purchase a bike adapter bar. Well, we can go ahead and pop these guys off. All we got to do, pinch that lever. It's going to go ahead and, as you guys can see, allow us to easily take those out. The one thing I will say about the zip strips, make sure you have a pocket or two to go ahead and store them. They can quickly and easily become lost if you're not watching it. Now the anti-sway cradle too can be pushed up towards the middle of your rack. That just makes your dismount a little bit easier, especially when you are getting your bikes on and off. But now that I have all those removed, I can just simply grab my bike, lift it, walk it off, and we're all ready to ride. So mounting becomes just as easy as the reverse of that, of course. One thing to look out for, like we said, getting those anti-sway cradles in the middle can be really helpful. That way you're not combating it every time you go to set up. And of course, make sure you are either replacing your zip strips or place them in some place you're not going to be losing them, so that they are ready when you want to go to remount your bike. Now with any hitch mounted accessory, we definitely are going to be adding a little length to our vehicle. end today, we aren't going to be adding too much to the Tiguan. Not the longest vehicle out there, but definitely not the shortest. So let's go ahead and see exactly what we're working with from the rear of our bumper here today to the very end of our cradle. Our carrier is going to be putting us right at 37.5 inches to the very end there, guys. So definitely a little space that we've added. However, we do have a way of quickly shortening that down. At the top here, we're going to have this gray little lever. All I have to do, simply pop that guy towards me. That's going to allow my arms to swing in, just as you guys can see, into this position. Now, you are going to have just a little bit of movement here, nothing too crazy, especially if it's just natural road shake. I don't think it's going to be impacting us, whether we hear it or feel it. I think we're gonna have no issue with that, as it's pretty nice and secure here. Some carriers do have a little bit of wiggle, so it's always nice to check. And as you guys can see, we have a little bit of oscillation in the arms, but nothing that's going to be impacting us. And that really has helped cut down a lot of that length from the back of our bumper here today. We can go ahead and see to the very end, it's going to be putting us about 13 3/4. These strips are hanging out a little bit here. I'll probably tag those in if I was moving this guy. Those anti-sway, keeping them a little bit more open can be nice, just to shave down a little bit of that extra space. So about 13.5 inches or so, definitely shaving down a ton of that space. A lot of it does come from the arms, of course, because you got 4 bikes hanging off of there. So nice that we can cut that down. Now, hopefully we can get this in the garage, or at least give ourselves a lot more maneuverability when we need to park it. Now, one other thing we want to look at is going to be our clearance here at the bottom here. So I think we're going to be sitting pretty okay. Our hitch isn't too far from that rear axle, but let's take a look at what we're working with here. And about 9 and I want to say about 3/8 there, or maybe a half to the very bottom there. So about 9.5 inches. Now that's a little bit of clearance I might be slightly concerned about. What's nice that our hitch isn't being too far extended here, so we're not going to have too much of that dip. As those front wheels go up, the back will go down. So just keep in mind, if you have a very steep terrain that you're approaching, or for some reason find yourself doing a little off-road in the Tiguan, it can be a little important just to watch. However, since we do have the hanging style here today, our bike should be in no danger of making contact, which is great for ourselves. Now, what's awesome about this guy, though, once we actually do have our bikes off, we still have access to our cargo. To do that, we're simply going to come right up here. We're going to start accessing our tilt-away function. All we got to do, pull this little lever right here. That's going to go ahead and let this fall down just like that. Simple as can be, no pins or clips. And then I can simply access my hatch by pulling on that. And then get those coolers, bike helmets, anything I might need from the inside of here. And what's great too, you do have a nice little spot to sit. Now, sometimes you can kind of use the back of that carrier too as a footrest, which is great. But I do like how we actually have access here. Now, the only disadvantage, of course, with this is you actually do have to take off your bikes on here. You're looking at some of your more premium platform style or tray style carriers if you're looking for the capability of keeping your bike on there. And that's great for like long road trips. It's still going to be nice that we actually have that access to the back of our vehicle when we have all of our bikes off. Well, moving our way down to the inside here, though, we can see that we are working with ourselves an 1.25 inch shank here today inside for our 1.25 inch receiver. Now, this is going to be awesome because it does come like this, but it still also comes in with a 2-inch sleeve converter. And what that allows you to do, of course, is utilize your 2-inch hitches. So it is kind of versatile. If you have any other vehicles in the family, you can go ahead and kind of swap them between the two. And if you're asking me personally, I always recommend going to that 2-inch hitch. It's just going to give you a lot more tone capacity. It's just going to be better overall. Now, of course, sometimes we are kind of bend into our class 1 hitches or whatnot. So nice that we have that option of using that 1.25 inch for ourselves. But moving our way down to the inside there, you can still see we just have a little alignment pin. That safety pin's nice, just making sure that we are aligned where we want to be, properly aligned. And on the bottom here, though, is actually going to be where a lot of our work is coming in place. So you can see here at the bottom, we are going to have a locking core here on this anti-rattle device. So this anti-rattle device is actually what's tightening the cam on the inside of our receiver and our shank, bringing it all in line to one system. As you guys are going to see, as I shake this, it's actually shaking the entirety of the vehicle. That means we've taken all that play out. There's nothing shaking, nothing rattling, and that's making for a nicer, smoother ride for ourselves as we drive, our bike rack, and of course our bike. And that's huge on these hanging style guys. Anything you can to combat that sway is really going to be helpful, and bringing this all in line with one system. And how easy it is to do right on the front is really hard to beat. I'm not scrounging on the underside. I don't have a ratchet. All I got to do, make sure I have my key, and I can go ahead and secure this to my vehicle. And talking about that key, what's going to be awesome about that, you are going to have that locking core included there to make sure that your hitch stays attached to your vehicle when you leave it unattended, but it also can start being key to like utilizing Yakima's same key system. So what that can mean, we can go ahead and grab ourselves a handcuff link here to go ahead and give ourselves a cable lock on our carrier, which is something I highly recommend if you're carrying these bikes. That way you can go ahead and make sure your bikes are secure to your carrier while your carrier is secure to your hitch. But also you can get that key to like to a host of different accessories. Maybe you guys got some bike racks, anything else like that. Can go ahead and be able to get that key to like. And it's always nice to have a spare. If you're like me, a little forgetful. Nice that you have that backup. Well, the RidgeBack is still an awesome little option for you guys. What's awesome about it though too, it doesn't just come in the 4, it does come in a 5 bike option and a 2 bike. So if you still like the style, there are different ways of carrying the amount of bike you guys need at home. Again though, I highly recommend the back road. I think it can be a nice little option as well. I like that 7-inch subset. If you're not too worried about the length being added on the back of your vehicle, that can be nice if you're really worried about that contact that your bike might be making with that sway. However, RidgeBack's still going to do a great little job of combating that sway. That anti-sway cradle system is going to be the same. And as you guys saw, it did a very good job of it. It's just for those who are very concerned about their nice looking bike. Well guys, I think that about does it for our look here today at the Yakima RidgeBack here on our 2021 Volkswagen Tiguan. I'm Bobby. Thank you for watching.
Here it is on our test course. We'll start by going through the slalom. This is going to show us the side-to-side action, which simulates turning corners or evasive maneuvers. Next, we're at the alternating speed bumps, which we'll see the twisting action. This will simulate hitting a curb or pothole or driving over uneven pavement. And finally, we have the full speed bumps, where we'll see the up and down action, which is just like driving out of a parking lot, garage, or driveway.